So I guess I should talk a little bit about why so many upgrades very quickly. I initially didn't want to buy a motorcycle. I had a motorcycle, you know, when I was in my early 20s, and make no mistake about it, it was massive amounts of fun. The main problem, though, was I did a lot of stupid stuff, and I almost had some accidents. Thankfully, nothing serious. I never dropped on my bike or never fell, but I certainly had quite a few close calls. And so when I stopped riding, I never really gave much thought to riding a motorcycle, specifically because I thought it was kind of dangerous, and I didn't trust myself to be smart on the motorcycle. Then a friend was selling his Vulcan 500 for a ridiculous price, and I really liked the bike and kind of just the looks of it. And so I bought it, and I practiced on it, and took my test, passed. But through all the practice, I realized that I definitely wanted something a bit stronger. I wanted to go on the highway. I didn't want to be, I wanted to be able to do 110, 120 kilometers with no issue. We wanted to go riding in the mountains. We are in the foothills of the Canadian mountains. And I just wanted more power. And to be honest, the last bike I had was a 1982 Yamaha Seika 750. So, and that 750, I remember having lots of power. Sadly, I remember hitting 100 on the highway with not a whole lot of problems. And it always felt to me like that was at 750, that was plenty of power. So ultimately, I started looking around, sold my Vulcan 500, and almost the same day, I believe, that I sold that bike, I found a Suzuki M50 and bought it. And the Suzuki M50, the Boulevard M50, is a kind of like a sport cruiser. So it's a pretty bike, and ultimately I'm a cruiser guy. I like the feel of that kind of ride. Maybe I'll talk about that later. But it also is pretty, like, it was cool. It was sporty. Relative to my 500, it seemed to have quite a bit more power. And I drove the back roads on it quite a bit. And it was great. The downfall on that particular bike is riding on the highway. So even though you could do, anywhere from 100 to 120 to, even up to 140 kilometers with still lots of reserve left, there is definitely, it was a high rev, sort of a buzz feel. We get a lot of wind here in Alberta, and you're riding at steep degrees to kind of fight the wind. And so once I started to ride on the highway quite a bit more, and recognizing that I really wanted to do more touring, then I I started to think that wasn't the bike for me. And so for, you know, maybe a couple grand more than what I spent on that bike, I could get something in the, at least starting in 1100, upwards of 1300. And I've actually seen bikes that were in pretty good shape go for, you know, in that $6,000 Canadian range. Not too many, mind you, but a few. The initial bike that I was looking at was a Honda VTX 1300. I really like the looks of those. It actually rides kind of like this bike, and had went and ridden a few of those. I could never come up with a good fine one with that somebody was willing to give for a good price. Then I went and I saw this. Actually, when this ad came out, and I was checking like every couple hours for a few days, to be honest. This bike was listed, really good price, but it came with a bunch of stuff: additional helmets, riding gear, a touring bag, plus a bike, and it only has almost 6,500 kilometers on it, which is next to nothing. Now, mind you, the bike needed a bunch of work in terms of trying to clean it up. There was some little bit of rust on the chrome, and it was definitely, it wasn't clean by any stretch, but I like detailing, so trying to get the bike back into sort of pristine condition was going to be a fun project. And I think it's one of those things that it's one of the reasons why the price of the bike was what it was. So I purchased it. So let's talk about a few things about the bike, what I like, what I don't. And keep in mind, whenever you're buying a